SOS Audio presents The Boredom of Haruhi Suzumiya by Nagaru Tanigawa. Prologue. As much as I'd like to say that the club was founded on the melancholy of Suzumiya Haruhi, my own melancholy would be a much more appropriate description. The SOS Brigade was established in early spring, while the whole self-made movie fiasco happened in autumn. The project caused me to sigh endlessly, but hardly fazed Haruhi. Half a year had gone by between the two events. Of course, in that time, which included summer vacation, Haruhi could not and did not let the time pass by pointlessly. It was no surprise that there had been so many illogical and absurd events. I don't even know if some of them were real incidents or just accidents. Let's just say that we were pulled into everything against our will. No matter what you say, seasons come and seasons go. As the average temperature rises, inconceivable ideas arise endlessly from Haruhi's mind, similar to how different kinds of insects appear out of nowhere. It would be fine if she just kept all those ideas inside her head, but no. Those ideas always resulted in a variety of creepy situations that the whole group would have to deal with. Just what is going on here? Now, I don't know what Koizumi, Nagato, or Asahina are thinking, but here is my self-diagnosis. My mind and body are healthy, but every time something happens, I feel as if I'm some sort of small round animal that can't move from overeating. The same ending always happens, and that is myself rolling on and on down a hill. Perhaps I've already started rolling. Haruhi has this really irritating habit. Whenever her mind is not filled with happy thoughts, she starts thinking up ideas that make you want to laugh and cry at the same time. Anyway, she just can't stand having nothing to do. She is that kind of person after all. Whenever she has nothing to do, she'll go and find something to do. This usually involves something absurd. From my personal experiences, whenever Haruhi says something, the rest of us will not be able to enjoy our peaceful days for a while. Perhaps those good old days will never come back. What a troublesome person. It doesn't really matter if the result is good or bad, as long as her life isn't boring. That's Suzumiya Haruhi for ya. Because this is such a rare chance, let me share with you how our SOS Brigade fought back boredom during the half a year when our melancholy became frustration. As to why I said this is a rare chance, I actually don't know myself. I just think that it wouldn't do me any harm if I shared the stories. And anyway, I really hope that at least one person will share my indescribable feelings. Yeah, let's start with that silly baseball game. One day in the headquarters of the SOS Brigade, which in reality still belonged to the Literature Club, Haruhi announced with the same enthusiasm as a baseball team captain who drew first seat at Koshien.
We're entering the baseball tournament!
It was after school one day in June, and it had been 2 weeks since the nightmare event. Since then, I had been unable to concentrate on my studies. My test results were a real nightmare. It didn't seem like Haruhi ever paid attention in class, yet her results made it into the top 10. If there exists a god out there, he's probably playing a prank on me. Oh well, I guess it doesn't really matter anymore. I'm much more concerned with the content of Haruhi's announcement. Just what is she talking about? I looked at the other three people in the room. The first one that caught my eye was Asahina-san. Her face was as innocent as a middle school student. If she had white fluffy wings, she would look just like an angel on her way back to heaven. I know full well that she can look very glamorous if she wants to. For reasons unknown to me, Asahina was the only person in the room not wearing her high school uniform. Instead, she was wearing a pink nurse uniform. With those cute lips of hers half opened, she looked intently at Haruhi. She wasn't a nursing student, nor some costume-wearing weirdo. She was just following Haruhi's orders. Haruhi must have bought this costume from some weird website again. She's been bringing weird clothes for Asahina to wear for a long time now. Most people with common sense would be asking the same question about now. What exactly is the point of this cosplaying? No doubt she would reply with, why do we need an explanation for that? Haruhi instructed Asahina to always wear that costume whenever she was in the club room. Asahina-san would always resist, but in the end, she would always obediently follow Haruhi's commands with tears in her eyes. She looked so adorable that sometimes I felt compelled to embrace her from behind. Yet, so far, I haven't been able to do that. I assure you, by the way, just for your information, 2 weeks ago, her standard attire was a maid costume, but right now, it's hanging on the clothes rack. Actually, the maid costume suits Asahina much better if you ask me, so I do hope she reverts to it soon. I think Asahina would comply with audience feedback, though she'd be troubled and embarrassed by it. Yep, that would be good. After hearing Haruhi's speech on the baseball tournament, Asahina-san the nurse made her comment. She made a sound as sweet as a canary, then stopped. It was only natural for her to have such a reaction. I turned my gaze to the other girl in the room. Her height was similar, but compared to Asahina-san, her presence was like that of thin cabbage to a sunflower. Nagato Yuki, as always, was indifferent to her surroundings as her gaze was fixed on her open hardback book. About every 10 seconds, she would flip the pages with her finger. It was only then that people could realize she was still living. I'm pretty sure a parrot would have a bigger vocabulary than her, and even a hibernating groundhog would be more active than she is. Since her presence doesn't really make a difference, there's no real need to describe her here. If I had to make a brief description, then I'd say she's a first-year student like Haruhi and me, and she is the sole member of the literature club, the original occupant of this room. In other words, our club, the SOS Brigade, has borrowed the use of this room from the literature club. To be more precise, we have taken over this room like parasites. Of course, the school has not approved of this since our application to form a club has been ignored by the student council. I turned my gaze away from Nagato's expressionless face and saw sitting by the side the handsome grinning face of Itsuki Koizumi. He looked at me with an amused expression. This guy's opinions were of lesser importance than Nagato's. This mysterious transfer student, according to Haruhi anyway, brushed aside his bangs and slowly broke into a smile, much to my chagrin. As our eyes met, I had a strong urge to punch him as he shrugged his shoulders meaninglessly. He was seriously asking for a beating. Sorry, but what did you say we're entering? As no one said anything, I, as always, replied on behalf of the group. Why does everyone treat me as a communication relay to Haruhi? Nothing's as bothersome as that.
This!
Haruhi gave me a flyer cheerfully. I took a glance at Asahina-san, who had bad memories with flyers, and saw her backing away trembling. I read out the words on the piece of paper. 9th City Amateur Baseball Tournament. It was probably a tournament to decide which baseball team was the best in the city. It was organized by the city council and seemed to have some history, being held every year. I raised my head. Haruhi's 100% smile almost glowed straight into my eyes. I backed away for half a step involuntarily. So, who's entering this baseball tournament? I knew the answer already, yet I still decided to ask for some reason.
Us, obviously.
Alright. When you say us, does that mean me, Asahina-san, Nagato, and Koizumi?
Who else could it be?
Couldn't you have asked for our consent first?
We'll need to find 4 more people.
As usual, she only hears the things she wants to hear. I suddenly thought of something. Do you even know the rules of baseball?
More or less. It involves pitching, catching, base running, sliding, and blocking. I joined the baseball team for a bit, so I know the basics.
A bit? Just how long did you join them for?
Just under an hour. It was so boring, I had to leave.
If baseball was so boring, then why do you want to join a baseball tournament? And why do we have to participate as well? Faced with this natural question, Haruhi made the following reply.
This is a chance to leave our mark on the world. If we win this tournament, we could become famous overnight. It's a great opportunity.
First of all, I don't want the name of the SOS Brigade being spread even further. Secondly, so what if the SOS Brigade becomes famous overnight? What do you mean by a great opportunity? I didn't know what to say, and Asahina looked stunned as well. Koizumi mumbled.
So that's how it is.
He didn't look concerned at all. As for Nagato, was she troubled by it? She probably didn't even hear what was being said. She remained as still as a statue. Her face remained blank as ever.
It's a nice idea, isn't it, Mikuru-chan?
Faced with Haruhi's sudden question, Asahina seemed withdrawn.
Well,
Like a crocodile ambushing a little deer drinking water at the lake, Haruhi moved behind Asahina-san, who was about to stand up, and grabbed the tiny nurse, or hospital attendant to be precise, from behind.
what are you doing? Listen, in this brigade, the orders of the commander are absolute. Insubordination is a serious offense. We'll handle all the opinions during the meeting.
Meeting? Those meetings are just an excuse to stuff weird ideas down our throats. Haruhi grappled Asahina's neck with her snake-like arms as Asahina struggled.
Doesn't baseball sound like fun? Just so you know, our target is to win this. Not a single defeat will be accepted, because I hate losing.
Asahina-san rolled her eyes and blushed furiously as she trembled, while Haruhi held her tight like a professional wrestler and nibbled at her ears while staring at me fiercely, seemingly unhappy with me.
Any problems?
It wouldn't really matter even if we had any. We never intended to listen to them anyway.
I don't see why not.
Hey, don't just agree blindly. How about raising an objection once in a while?
Then I'll go and get the baseball equipment from the baseball team.
Haruhi bolted out of the club room like a small tornado. Asahina-san, finally free of Haruhi's grip, slumped onto her chair exhausted. Koizumi expressed his thoughts.
We should be lucky that she's not starting a war to capture aliens, or planning a trip in search for unidentified mysterious animals. Baseball has nothing to do with the terrifying paranormal phenomena which we fear most, right?
Makes sense. I decided to agree with his reasoning for now. No matter how insane Haruhi is, she still hasn't asked us to go and search for aliens, time travelers, and espers. If that's the case, instead of wandering around the city searching for supernatural occurrences, which was near impossible, we might as well play a game of baseball. Besides, even Asahina-san was nodding her head in agreement. However, our speculations were wide off the mark. Not only did they miss their target, the arrows fired by Haruhi had shot through the wall and had flown off somewhere else entirely. I only learned of this soon after. At any rate, I thought to myself, even if it's not baseball, anything that could attract attention would do for her. The SOS Brigade, which Haruhi had carried the banner for, not only has a despicable name, it's not even a club. Not to mention, it's not even recognized by the school. It was only created because she felt like it. The official name, the spreading excitement all over the world with Suzumiya Haruhi Brigade, was not only long and condescending, it just didn't make sense. After my suggestion to shorten the name got cruelly rejected, I had not been able to find an opportunity to change it. I once made the mistake of asking Haruhi what kind of activities the club would be involved in. Haruhi replied with the face of a soldier who had just cut off the head of an enemy general.
To find aliens, time travelers, and espers and play with them.
This was the famous quote of the eccentric Suzumiya Haruhi, well known around the school since the beginning, and has been associated with weirdness ever since she said it. In reality, there was no difference between her and crows searching for glowing objects. Once she saw something that caught her interest, be it dodgeball, netball, or cricket, she'd definitely yell loudly, "I want to do that." Maybe I should be grateful we're not playing rugby since we'd have to find more people to make up the teams. To put it simply, Haruhi was just feeling bored. Now, I had no idea what deal Haruhi had struck, but she quickly returned with a whole box full of baseball equipment. Inside the small cardboard box, which looked as if it contained an abandoned puppy, were 9 worn-out baseball gloves and a baseball bat with plenty of dents on it, as well as a few dirty hard baseballs. Wait, isn't this a softball tournament? Why are you bringing baseballs?
So? They're still balls and they still fly when you hit them with a bat, so don't worry so much.
I remembered playing baseball back in elementary school, but I haven't touched the game ever since then. However, even I knew the major difference between a baseball and a softball. It hurts when you get whacked in the head by a baseball.
Then wouldn't it be fine as long as we don't hit anyone?
Haruhi rejected my objection with a look that said, "I don't see what all the fuss is about." I decided not to argue with her. Then, when's the match going to be held?
This Sunday.
That's the day after tomorrow! Isn't that way too soon?
But I already registered. Oh, don't worry, I decided the team will be called the SOS Brigade. I made sure of that much.
So, where are we going to find the other team members then?
We'll just randomly grab anyone walking around looking bored.
Are you serious? With the exception of one person, anyone targeted by Haruhi is usually not normal. That rare exception would be me. And I had no intention of getting acquainted with any more mysterious people. Alright then, you stay put. I'll take care of choosing the team. First, I thought of the guys from Class 1-5, the only ones who would come at once without hesitation. That'd be Taniguchi and Kunikita, I guess. Hearing my suggestion, Haruhi replied,
Those'll do.
She treats her classmates as mere objects.
It's better than none.
The other guys would probably flee at the mere mention of Suzumiya Haruhi. Now, where to find the other two players?
Excuse me? Would it be okay
That'd be
if my
fine.
friend...
Haruhi responded immediately. Looks like anyone would do. Maybe for her it would be fine, but I was concerned. Asahina-san's friend? When and where did she befriend someone? Asahina-san probably noticed my concerned look and said to me,
It's okay. She's from this town. I mean, she's a friend I met
She
in
tried to
class.
allay my fears. At that moment, Koizumi chose to speak up as well.
In that case, maybe I should bring a friend as well. In fact, I know someone who's interested in our
I
club.
shut him up before he could finish. There's no need for you to bring your buddies over. They're going to be freaks anyway. I'll think of someone. If there was no selection criteria, then there are other friends I know of. Haruhi nodded her head happily.
Then let's begin our training.
Oh boy. It was only natural for the topic to come to this.
We start now.
Now? Where?
In the track field.
The sound of the baseball team yelling their slogans could be heard through the window. Speaking of which, I know it's awkward to suddenly change the subject, but I have to let you know, besides myself, the other 4 people gathered here in this room, for certain reasons, are not normal people. Only Haruhi wasn't aware of this. The other 3 have all willingly revealed their identities to me, and hoped I would understand. If my common sense was like Earth, then the 3 of them would be as incomprehensible as objects revolving beyond the orbit of Pluto. However, since the end of last month, I've gone through certain experiences that led me to believe they might be telling the truth. I didn't even want to know the truth, but ever since I was forced into Haruhi's club, I had to abandon that small wish of mine. To put it simply, the reason why Asahina-san, Nagato, and Koizumi appeared in this school was all because of Haruhi. They all seemed to hold a particular interest in Haruhi. To me, she was just a giddy high school girl. But I was the only one who thought that way, and lately, I've been having doubts about it myself. I can guarantee that it wasn't me that was going crazy, but I was just about the only one in the world who wasn't. Thanks to the experiences mentioned above, I was now standing out in the dusty track field with the other out-of-this-world members of the brigade. Being forced off the field by us, the baseball team looked stunned. I mean, how else would they react? A mysterious club suddenly appears with a sailor uniformed schoolgirl who seems to be their leader, waving a baseball bat and yelling insanely. While they were still busy being awestruck, the track field, which was reserved for the baseball team, was taken over before they even knew it. They were even made to pick up and throw the baseballs. How can they not be bewildered? Not to mention, our group was dressed in normal school uniforms, plus 1 nurse.
Let's start with 1,000 bats.
Just as Haruhi had forecasted, standing in a row on the pitcher's mound, we were now covered in a rain of baseballs. Asahina-san knelt down, covering her head with her glove. I sacrificed myself to catch the balls, making sure they didn't hit her. Speaking of which, each of Haruhi's strikes had a killer instinct in them. No matter what she does, she always goes all out. Koizumi carried his usual grin and easily dodged the balls.
I haven't played like this for a long time. It makes me feel rather nostalgic.
He casually stepped away from Haruhi's wild strikes while revealing his snow-white teeth to me. If you have so much energy, why don't you come help Asahina-san? I turned to Nagato and saw her standing very still while facing Haruhi. She just stood there, completely ignoring the balls flying towards her. She didn't even flinch when a ball flew past her ear by a few centimeters. Occasionally, she would slowly move her gloved left hand like a remote-controlled robot to catch a few balls that would hit her directly, then slowly put her hand down again. You ought to move around a bit more. Or perhaps I should compliment you on your good eyes? Maybe I shouldn't be paying attention to other people, as a bouncing hardball skipped past my glove and under my legs and went straight for Asahina-san's knees. How careless of me.
Ow! It hurts!
She started to sob. I can't take this anymore. I'm counting on you guys. After telling Koizumi and Nagato that, I shielded Asahina and brought her off the field.
Hey, where are you going? Kyon! Mikuru-chan! Come back here!
She needs medical treatment! I lifted my hand and ignored Haruhi's protests, then led Asahina-san to the clinic. I'm sure her nurse's uniform would fit in better in the clinic than inside the dusty old clubroom or the rough track field. I can't be wrong about that.